Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And once again, we're pre-taping, this time on a Thursday before our Monday air date. And basically, there's so much stuff breaking right now that what we need to do is try our best to put it in some kind of framework.
Right.
So,
it doesn't work to break the news knowing that we're going to be a few days behind anyhow.
The bottom line is,
Whatever we say today will change by tomorrow.
Probably dramatically, the way things are going this week.
Absolutely.
but what we do know is we're still going to be swimming in this miasma of white supremacist craziness that the occupant of the White House, which is the way Ayanna Pressley referred to the occupant in the White House, because as much as I hate those double down, triple down euphemisms, he has dug in his heels and decided he will take his dog and pony racist attacks on the road, which he did last week. And by next week, this stuff will still be percolating. And so let's try to put it in perspective from the media side, right? Because we were having an off-camera discussion earlier. We were saying, Ray, about the media needing to call this stuff properly.
Absolutely. The media needs to get out there and call what's happening by its name. It's racism, pure and simple. The man in the White House is a racist. He's misogynist. He is every evil thing you can name. And nobody's actually saying it. The media is beginning to say, oh, well, he's a bad man. But, you know, it's up to the media to bring the truth to the public. That's what a free press is supposed to do. That's what a free press does.
Tries to do.
Or tries to do. I mean, you know, those that are really dedicated try to do that. And we try to do that. But, you know, as I was saying to you, we don't have a paycheck to lose.
Right.
So, you know, we've got nobody to answer to.
No, that's an extremely good point, especially, well, I don't even, since I don't consider Fox a news organization, I just won't even mention them.
We have said that on more than one occasion.
Right, but yeah, a lot of places, even the Times where objectivity is the ultimate goal, people are pushing at the edges trying to say more, and it's coming out in the op-eds where people can say as they like, but the reporters, wow, I have to watch, the phraseology is careful, still very careful, but you're right, it comes to a point where there's just so much evidence there of racism and you know, just...
Yeah,
you just have to say it. And it's not like you're slanting the news. That's what the news is.
Yeah, there was a resolution on the House floor by Nancy Pelosi to call all the president's comments against, quote, the squad, those 4 freshman women of color that his racist tweets were directed at. And to show you how badly the Republicans are trying to smokescreen this guy, they wouldn't let that proposal, the vote to call his tweets racist, hit the floor because they wanted a vote to challenge the Speaker of the House, saying she had violated House rules with the wording of her resolution to call his racist words racist.
Okay.
Now, that didn't fly because there are more Democratic House members. But they actually held this vote to hold her against House rules or charge her with violating House rules. And they defeated that, the Democrats did, and then they actually had the vote. And the next day she actually appeared before some set of microphones saying, the games that they were playing, accusing me of calling the president a racist, was incorrect, and it was just a game because they knew I was challenging the words he used and the tweets he used, etc. And I'm listening to this and I'm saying, so you consider that a victory because you're condemning the racist words he used, but you're not condemning him for being a racist, okay?
Right.
And so I'm saying, what kind of victories are you people patting yourself on the back for? I mean, like Raymond is saying, we don't have a a paycheck,
Right.
and there's no corporate media that's going to cut us off at the knees. But when this guy came down the escalator, we called him a racist SOB for calling Mexicans rapists,
right,
and killers, and thieves.
Right.
We didn't say
that was day one
yeah,
of his
day
campaign.
one. We did not mince words. And when he came out with the big lie, as he always did, while he was running for office, we called him a big liar. Then it took the New York Times, which I think took the lead. I don't think the Washington Post took the lead. I think the New York Times took the lead to call him a liar. Way at I think the eve before the actual vote in the presidential election, when they got so fed up with the lies he'd been telling, they actually came out with a headline that said he had lied. They used the word lie. And so the other day there was a big pat on the back because the Columbia Journalism Review supposedly had given their imprimatur to call these racist things racist. And I'm saying, what happened to journalists just being able to report what they're seeing with their own eyes?
I've been asking that
walks like a duck,
for the past 3 years.
talks like a duck,
Yeah.
quacks like a duck, acts like a duck. Never mind what he says. What has he done? This man was racist from the time he was a New York real estate developer.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't change colors.
Got
and
it.
he didn't change
Got it from
stripes.
Dad. That's the way it was brought up.
That's
we
true.
went through the
That's
we went through the same thing about him taking out that racist full page ad about those Central Park.
Central Park 5. Yeah.
Yes.
The exonerated 5 now.
Were
Yes.
exonerated.
I am so
Absolutely.
I sound like I'm on a goddamn horse again, but yes, we need to get the media to say what needs to be said in the unvarnished. And like what I want to do on this particular show, having opened up with this diatribe, is to put this entire, because those racist tweets that took over the news cycle and that actually pushed his campaign style rally, which he scheduled, I believe, for the day that he thought Mueller was going to testify, which was going to be the offsetting counter narrative.
Right,
Turned
right.
out they pushed back the Mueller testimony, so it turned out it was Dog and Pony Roadshow to back up the 4 members of the House of Representatives who had a fabulous press conference and just basically nailed his ass to the wall about his bait and switch, about the fact that yes, it was racist, and that yes, we shouldn't fall for the bait and switch. We shouldn't get distracted by the stuff. That was one half. The other half of the team says, yes, but this is just behavior beyond the pale, so we need to just drop the pretense and go start impeaching this guy. So there's this Democratic fight. But the historical perspective for me, because I did this piece for the History News Network a month ago, June 23rd, they published it. And basically was calling for a historical perspective on the white supremacist narrative. You talk about a historical tweet narrative that said somebody or other actually put up that talked about 1936, Germany, the thing on the Jews, for the Jews in Germany. And then
first it was, the Jews leave, then it was...
And then 2017, Jews will not replace us.
Jews will
and now
and now it's
2019,
go
send her
back.
back.
Send her back.
Send her
right.
back.
Go
Which was
back.
what the people at his rally was.
Which he has denied since, he said I was appalled by it. It was terrible. I was not happy with that. The crowd reaction.
Well, yes, because at his campaign style rally,
he said that this
when
morning,
he
I think.
lied again about Ilhan Omar, one of the freshman congresswomen who happens to be a Somali refugee, but a U.S. citizen and a member of the House of Representatives. He told some bald-faced lie again about her at his rally and said she says all kinds of terroristic things and does all kinds of crazy things. And the chant from the crowd was, send her back, send her back, send her back. Well...
And he actually said in the thing that I read this morning that, I tried to quell that by speaking again immediately, but he waited 13 seconds before he opened up his mouth.
Did he actually say that this morning? I
Yeah,
missed that. That's so far from the truth.
I
know.
Bald-faced lie. Don't get me
Absolutely.
far from the truth.
But
bald-faced
he's-
lie.
Okay.
Don't want to hear far from the truth.
Okay.
Bald-faced lie.
Yes.
Okay? Because I watched the clip of the rally more than once because
Yeah.
people kept playing it.
I saw it
and
today
he
for the
just
first
stood
time.
there
Okay.
and beamed and smiled
Absolutely.
and basked
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
send her back chant.
A good
So he
10,
didn't try to quell it.
13
and
seconds.
Like any sane politician might says, "Oh no, that's not what we do in this country. Please don't do that."
Right.
He didn't do any of that. He just stood there and smiled.
No.
And just basically basked in their send her back chant.
His hands never went up.
Never
he
went
never
up.
tried to quiet
No,
them.
no,
Never
no,
said-
not at
It
all.
was, the
No,
hands
he
were
just,
more like
he
this.
just stood there and
strutting the-
soaked it in.
Yes.
Is what he did.
So the piece that I wrote talked about the fact that back in the 1980s, all these white supremacist things that we're seeing now in 2019, killings here and there all across the globe,
Right.
that was happening in this country
Right.
in 1980, and it was happening across the globe. And I did this 4-page memo to the ABC News Division saying we need to,
Yeah.
as a news division, take a look at this thing that's sweeping the globe and sweeping the country. It was like open season on
And
black.
this was 30, 40 years ago. that you did this.
1981 was
Yeah,
the year of the memo, okay? But within the context of writing the piece, what I did was I went back and talked about what the run-up to that kind of climate was. And basically, Ronald Reagan had launched his campaign for the presidency in 1980. And he was the first Republican president to ever go into the heart of the Klan country. He went to Neshoba County in Philadelphia, Mississippi, to launch his campaign.
Did he?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, he
that's
did.
what he
Okay.
did. And basically what he was doing was sending a signal to the Klan country, to the white supremacists, and to those people that I am your guy.
Can
I
we
am
remind
coming to you.
the audience where Philadelphia, what Philadelphia,
The
Mississippi is
the three
famous for?
What?
Civil rights workers,
Goodman,
Schwerner,
and
Cheney.
Right.
that's the county, that was the city, Philadelphia, Mississippi, where they were slain. And he knew when he went there that he was basically saying, yeah, I don't care that this is where you kill those people at the height of the civil rights movement. This is, 16 years later? 64 is when they were killed, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I think
In
it was.
1980, he's launching this campaign. And so
68.
his slogan then was, make America great, okay? And his code word was, we're going to turn the clock back. Now his turn the clock back was coded phrase was to a time when there was no civil rights movement.
Right.
When
Right.
black and brown
Right.
people had
Right.
no rights.
Exactly.
If that's what you people in Neshoba County, Mississippi want, that's what I know a whole bunch of these other white voters in America want, and I'm signaling to you that I'm your man. Well, Donald Trump says, I don't need coded languages anymore.
Right.
So he
Yes.
just says, go back to where you came from. We're not turning the clock back. I'm telling you, go back to where you came from, as if they didn't come from the United States of America.
Right. It used to be
That's
a-
the context we have to deal with.
It used to be in strings of euphemisms, like you just said. It used to be, let's get things back to the way they were, or let's bring back, let's bring back such and such.
The dog
And-
whistle politics.
Yeah, right. And it's like, we don't need all this change. Let's bring it back to what we're used to, and what we're familiar with. And but
what
no,
makes us happy?
yeah.
So the stories that are unfolding today is actually swimming in that soup, this white supremacist, white boy privilege. Here are a couple of things. Judge John Paul Stevens passed.
Yes. Just
This
2
year?
days ago.
Okay? One of the greatest justices to ever come down the pipe. There are two things I want our audience to remember about John Paul Stevens. He said, after he retired, the two decisions that he regretted most, the key one that I can remember off the top of my head was Citizens United.
Right. He spoke
Right.
about that.
He said
I saw that.
flat outright, that was a major, major mistake. I wish we'd never gone down that road. And the second one had something, I think, to do with voting rights. It slipped my mind. I don't have it on the screen. But the third thing that I had to bow to him for was he came flat right out and said, Brett Kavanaugh is unfit to be on the Supreme Court. This is a former Supreme Court justice
right?
Yeah.
saying that. And so for me, the Brett Kavanaugh thing is part of this white supremacy, white boy privilege sea that we're swimming in. The fact that Mitch McConnell made sure that he stymied Barack Obama
Yes.
from fulfilling his right to appoint another Supreme Court justice, that's part of this white supremacist, white boy privilege thing that we're swimming in. Jeffrey Epstein, the latest big story that Donald Trump is trying to get you to not look at, because somewhere in the history of Jeffrey Epstein's behavior, some very high profile people like Donald Trump and maybe Bill Clinton and Alan Dershowitz, they're all getting tied into what was he doing, when was he doing it, and how involved were you? He got the sweetheart deal of his life from a judge,
No, don't.
Former Judge
former
Acosta.
U.S. attorney,
Attorney.
Acosta,
Yeah.
where they gave him a plea deal where he pled guilty to soliciting prostitution when he really was trafficking
To
in
state- yeah.
underage young people,
When he-
trafficking young women, and
Which should have been a federal crime, but they
Yeah,
gave him a local state charges as opposed to federal charges,
Which would have
which
been-
was the deal.
the
So,
supposed
yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
But you know what? What's his name?
Acosta.
Acosta
Yeah.
violated a federal law when he did not inform the victims of
Yes.
Epstein's that he was getting ready to do this plea deal. And any argument he says, well, I might not have gotten a conviction, I might not. Why did you go off site to negotiate a deal with Epstein's lawyer at some site not in your office, in the U.S. Attorney's
Right.
office in Florida? Why did you cut a deal with him without letting the victims know? Against the law. That's another white boy privilege in the sea of white supremacy
right,
that we're
right.
swimming in. So the fact that
the thing is, you talk about him not informing the victims. He didn't even have the victims' attorneys in on these meetings.
I'm saying,
Totally off.
the stuff that I read, he let Epstein's lawyer dictate the terms of the
Right.
damn sweetheart deal.
No, this was
That's what it seems
that
like,
was
yeah.
breathtaking when I first understood. I didn't understand the entire story at once, but once I realized that he never spoke to the victims in the process of hammering out this deal, which by itself is atrocious and incredible. That just blew me away. That he didn't even talk to the victims. How do you do that?
I know.
How?
Absolutely.
What other prosecutor?
Or at least their attorneys.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another Justice Department screw up. Okay.
Yep.
So now the latest Justice Department screw up, two of them just broke this week. When we air Monday, it's just last Wednesday, Thursday. The New York District decided they were not going to prosecute Pantaleo. The
Officer,
US cop.
Yeah, just
Right,
just
right.
make
Yeah,
sure
because
the audience
you're
understands.
talking-
New York City cop who put Eric Garner in the chokehold.
Yeah.
After 5 long years,
5 years ago,
they come in
Last
and
week.
they decide, oh, well, guess what? We've looked at this tape over and over, and we can't tell from looking at this tape, the tape where you see this man get choked to death and dies in a prohibited chokehold that the New York Police Department had
banned.
forbidden
Yeah.
and banned, but they couldn't come up with a civil rights violation. A New York grand jury previously had brought no charges against this same cop. Another example of white supremacy, white boy privilege. Again, twice, so the Garner family has been beat over the head at least 2 times.
Sure.
And so that's the Southern District of New York that didn't bring those charges, but guess who weighed in the final analysis? Because there were people in the Southern District, I am told, and I read, that said we should bring this to trial, even if some people think we can't win because we're sending the wrong message if we don't.
Right.
And who's the Attorney General for the U.S. right now that had the final say? Come on, guys.
I don't know. Who is the Attorney General
Come on,
right
guys.
now? They
Who's
come
the-
and go.
who's the
There's a
Attorney
revolving
General?
door there.
The Attorney General, the favorite guy of the occupant of the White House. Who is this guy? A guy by initials AG, last name BARR, Barr.
No, Barr,
Okay.
that's right. He's still
Bingo.
there. I'm
So
sorry.
now-
I didn't realize he was still
So
there.
now, that's the Eric Garner story.
Yeah.
Another example of white supremacy, white boy privilege coming to the fore again through the criminal justice system.
Now, if I believe what New York Mayor de Blasio said, they threw a roadblock in his face because he wanted to attack it locally, but the feds, the U.S. attorney said, no, wait till we get a good look at this, and then we'll let you guys get a shot.
Okay.
And all they did was let the clock run out. They didn't do a damn thing. And just
Well,
as you explained.
5 years
Yes.
have gone by. Okay, so
Absolutely,
now
yeah.
that's one that's right here in the New York district. Guess what's also here in the New York district, but another federal case.
The Epstein.
Okay, no, never mind.
the-
Epstein, we already went down Epstein. We
Yeah,
can go back over
yeah,
Epstein.
yeah, but New York's going to prosecute
stop
him.
and think. Campaign finance law violation during the 2016 campaign.
Oh, Mr.
Mr. Cohen is rotting in jail
Yeah.
right now.
Yep.
Okay? Other parties were involved where
Yes.
you could not see the transcript of the Cohen stuff because more cases and more individuals were involved that might be prosecuted. And so it turned out that individual number one, the occupant in the White House, was involved because he'd written at least one check for the payoff. His son, Donald Trump Jr., had written another check, and the whatever trust, the organization, had written a third check for the payoff. Okay, so those were part of the redacted stuff that we couldn't see as journalists earlier on. The judge unblocked those stuff yesterday, I guess, or this morning, the Thursday.
Was it
that
this
we're
morning?
airing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it turns out
I haven't read that yet.
that they were able to unredact it because, guess what? The Justice Department, the Southern District of New York said, well, I don't think we're going to bother pursuing those other entities that were involved in the campaign finance violation that
that's-
Michael Cohen is sitting in jail rotting for at least 3 years just because we don't think we need to do anything on those other parties. Guess who those other parties are? Do I remember?
Yes.
Come on, guys. Who
Well-
are those other parties?
Well, they're actually running the show.
Well, guess which Attorney General decided
Yes.
that the
Yeah.
Southern District of
Yeah.
New York
See,
should
that's-
no longer pursue that. Do I hear? What
Yeah,
do I
Mr.
hear?
Barr.
Yeah, Barr.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean that's just such an incredible way that thing ended up. I mean, basically the case is closed. They're not going to touch anything else, and of course the local U.S. attorney isn't going to move on.
Well,
Barr.
not when his boss tells him not to.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like, oh,
And so
that's
now this
it's incredible.
this is serious crimes. A man is rotting in jail.
Yeah.
A man
It's all
came
serious.
forward and gave testimony to all these different investigations and to all these different entities, including the Southern District of New York, which said, oh, you're right, we need to be looking at that stuff and these people. And lo and behold, only this guy is charged. Okay.
2 words: sacrificial lamb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll get something for it once
the
he's
word.
out of jail.
No, he
may
wasn't
get
trying-
something
he
from
wasn't
his
trying-
friends.
He wasn't trying to be a sacrificial lamb for
No,
nothing.
no,
but
but
they
My point,
They
point
hung
of
him
the
out to
matter
dry.
is,
They hung him out to dry. Absolutely.
decided-
Absolutely.
I'm not going to hang on any possible pardon from this guy. I'm just going to tell what happened and what went down. And because he told what happened and what went down, they had the goods
yes.
to go after these other entities. All right, there's only one ray of hope. Maybe there are two, but one's very, very faint. Because I call my good friend Warren Bonilla. He's my legal expert that I go to when I really can't read between the lines on this stuff.
yeah.
And I said, Warren, what's going on? Is there a statute of limitation on this? Because this Attorney General says he's not going to follow up on this, right? So can another attorney say, well, you know, Trump would have to not be reelected so you could get a new Attorney General.
right.
And then the new Attorney General would have to come in within a 5-year time span. So
Okay.
it's kind of tight because there's a 5-year limitation on
Okay.
when the crime was committed. And so they wrote the checks in 2017. When did they file their campaign document? That could have been 2017,
Right.
could have been the back end of 2016. Maybe they were slow and they might have filed it in 2018, but that would be the date of the offense, filing a
right.
false campaign document.
right.
Okay.
And so your 5 years from 18 would be 23, your 5 years from 16 would be 21,
Right.
your 5 years from 17 is 22. So can you get a guy taking office? Can you get an attorney general? Can he say, that was bogus. We shouldn't have dropped it. Let's go after her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that probably is the
Yeah.
slim to
Yeah. I agree.
the one ray of hope that really we could hang our hat on is the New York State Attorney General, because those checks were written in New York.
Yes.
The campaign violation and the entity that wrote the check to reimburse thing, New York entity. So those people are living in New York. So the New York State Attorney General can go after them. And my gut feeling is when she sees what these people have done about no longer pursuing these people, I think she's going to go after them.
And you're talking about former advocate Letitia James.
Yes,
now
that's the
Attorney
current
General.
Attorney General of the
Yes.
state of New York.
Yes.
I not that I didn't want to call her name, but
Yes.
we can put our hopes in Letitia James, the current Attorney General of the state of New York, to follow up on that aspect of the campaign violation
Right.
And hopefully she will.
thing that the Trump organization, Donald Trump himself, individual one, and Donald Trump Jr. are all liable for prosecution on.
Okay.
So-
And we have 2 minutes.
So,
Oh, really?
for me though, this is all part of this white privilege, this white man running the Justice Department for his white privileged friends. And yeah, Jeffrey Epstein may end up getting thrown under the bus because he deserves to be.
Yes.
But all those others who may or may not be out there, whether it's Donald Trump or Bill Clinton or Alan Dershowitz, with this current Attorney General, I'm not holding my breath that any of those folk are going to be
Yeah,
taken
no,
down.
I wouldn't
Okay?
think that, but I
Even if the evidence points to the fact that they should be taken down.
right, but
I'm not saying the evidence does.
No, I understand that, but I also understand that that New York State is thinking about prosecuting Epstein on federal charges.
On state charges, because his
Well,
bench is here in New York.
they got him on state charges, no question about that.
I'm not sure where the feds and the states
In your state,
are
yeah.
in this case. It's just like this whole
Well, we'll see.
campaign finance thing.
But I think you're right. I think they're going to throw him to the dogs.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to be associated with
Absolutely.
him right now. you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
There's-
look how long he skated, and look at the
Absolutely.
support
I
he
know.
got.
Well, that's because he was under, he was under wraps. Nobody knew anything about him. They do now.
We're out of time. I needed to do this perspective on white privilege, white supremacy, because all those tweets and all that was just pure racist white supremacist stuff.
15.
But there's a story that's broken big. The last Ebola outbreak in the Congo is now
Oh, God.
a world health emergency
Yeah.
because it spread to the neighboring
Yeah.
10
countries.
seconds.
So this has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony. If you see us on Twitter and YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
Catch you the next time, folks.
See me here.